So I guess what started with music, I mean, I started playing when I was 14, but got really interested in being a fan of music way before that. I remember I'm an only child, so growing up in my parents' house, there was a spare bedroom, and kind of like the stereo was in there, and there was a set of headphones that went with it. And, so I would kind of go through my parents' old albums, and they had some old stuff from the 70s, but I ended up with The Police, Synchronicity, which is a classic album. I used to listen to that constantly. I think I really got inspired by the bass lines. Sting was the bass player for The Police, and I got really inspired by that. It was just one of those things that I think kind of stuck with me for a long time, and I didn't realize until much later. But when I was 14, I had gotten into kind of heavy metal music at that point, and my parents always wondered why, but I think the fact that I was listening to Edgar Winter and Iron Butterfly when I was like 10 was probably had a lot to do with that. A friend of my parents, she had a band, and it was just like, not really country, but like a lot of like Creedence Clearwater Revival, like that kind of stuff. They needed a bass player, and I thought, well, I could probably do that. And so what I did was I borrowed one of her acoustic guitars and a chord book and started learning chords. I kind of figured that out, and then I went, looked in the paper and found a used bass and amp, and went and bought it and started playing. And so within about 2 weeks of purchasing my first instrument, I was playing in a band. I guess it would probably be fair to say it came to me pretty naturally. Typically, 2 weeks after you buy an instrument, you're not playing gigs in a band. I had been in middle school. I had played saxophone. I ended up playing the theme song from the TV show MASH, like at a concert one time, and it was for middle school band, but kind of got bored with saxophone. So I had some music background, but like barely. A year and a half of middle school saxophone could hardly be considered musical training, I think. Eventually met up with some guys in high school who were playing, and got with this guy who was just an amazing guitarist. I mean, unbelievable. He really just kind of taught me a lot about how to play. So I've never had any lessons, and I still don't read music to this day. It's funny, one time Mr. Pearson had asked me to play along with the choir. They were doing a really cool version of Spider-Man, really cool arrangement of it, and so he gave me the sheet music. And I said, that's really neat. I don't know what any of it means. And he's like, I forgot. And I said, is there a recording? He said, yeah. And said, let me hear the recording, and I'll learn it. So I learned by ear. Even when I'm playing things, when I'm playing notes, I don't always know why I'm playing them from a music theory standpoint, other than they sound good. I'm a high school kid playing with guys that are a lot older than me, and so a lot of times, like, my dad would have to go with me just so I could play. I'm like, yeah. I'm with the band, really, but here's my dad too. So I just kind of learned through playing with people. The best way to become a better musician is to play with other people. And there was this band called Live, and their very first album was called Mental Jewelry. Honestly taught me as much about playing bass as anything I've ever done. I was like, okay, I'm going to college. I was going to go to Berkeley in Boston, Berkeley School of Music. I was thinking about going there. But the choice was, okay, I really want to play football in college as well, which was an opportunity I had, that I was blessed with, and, thankfully had the choice to make, and decided to do that because I thought, I'll always be able to play music. I'm only going to be able to play football for a couple more years. So I went and did that, but then in that time frame, kind of got with another band. One of the guys that we played with, he was the lead singer for a group called Killswitch Engage, which is this really heavy band. Another guy is a bass player for the group Shadows Fall, who's another heavy metal band who's still playing and still touring and doing all these things. So met a lot of people that way, and just in playing that kind of music. Eventually kind of got into jazz and funk and that kind of stuff. I always kind of liked funk. I think the Red Hot Chili Peppers kind of got me into that a little bit. And playing bass, I think you always sort of gravitate towards that eventually. The jazz thing came a little bit later. I wish jazz had come earlier for me, because it's unbelievable, and I still can't play like all the things I want to play, because sometimes it's just so, it just doesn't even register for me, like where they're going with it, and it's just amazing and beautiful, and I can't always grasp it, but I always try. So I wish I would have come a little bit earlier. But the band that I've been playing with the most recently, and we haven't played in a while, it's a instrumental outfit where it's a jazz, funk, rock, blues kind of mix, and it's all instrumental. It's just weird. But what happened, honestly, is I'd known these guys forever, and this was guys I met after high school, and in the college, and these are the guys I was telling you about who all have music degrees and are all way better players than I am. We had all kind of known each other and had been in bands and had played around, and we eventually said, hey, what if we got together and just played the music that we want to play, music that we like, and if people listen to it, okay, and if they don't, okay. So we got together and we decided, okay, let's write music. And the guitarist for the band, he has a spreadsheet. I think he's written over 500 songs in his life. He's amazing. He's a musical genius, and he's amazing. Yeah, so creative and so good. But we got together and said, let's write some songs and let's do some stuff. So we recorded a couple of albums. One of them is on iTunes and Amazon Music and that kind of stuff. They're all instrumental, so there's no lyrics at all. We clearly went into this with no commercial aspiration because nobody wants to listen to instrumental jazz, funk, rock. Some people do. I mean, some people still buy the album off iTunes and Amazon and that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's kind of out there and just kind of floating out there. It's really good music. I mean, I'm the weakest link in the band, and I'm a pretty good player, and I'm the weakest link in that band. So like me playing with those guys is awesome because I'm just trying to keep up, which is such a great thing. And again, it goes back to you don't really ever get better unless you sit and play with other people. So it's a lot of fun to kind of be in that situation. So like I said, we haven't played in quite a while. Honestly, most of the playing I do now is at church, like, with the worship band on Sundays. Very fulfilling. And I've actually been talking to our worship leader. I said, I think maybe I'll start playing guitar because that'll push me a little bit more. Because I play guitar as well as bass. As you're in a band and you're at band rehearsal and people take breaks and, bathroom breaks or whatever, like, you go over and you pick up a guitar and you start figuring things out, or you sit down at the drums. So I can play drums and I can play guitar. I mean, my iTunes has, I think, 7,000 songs in it. And so, I mean, it's just in every kind of, I mean, I maybe have the most schizophrenic Pandora shuffle list of all time. I mean, it goes from John Williams, who is the composer who does movie, scores, Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. So I've got that, and then there's, I mean, even now as a 41-year-old assistant principal, I still have a death metal Pandora station. It's just one of those things where I love music, and I'm always going to be around music.